Good morning, students. We'll start. Ishwaran, the storyteller, from the line that you see there on the screen. He went on to narrate how he sometimes saw ghosts at night. Ishwaran this way started explaining about ghosts, how he sometimes saw ghosts at night. Before that, he had explained how once he controlled one elephant. He fought with one mad elephant with only a stick he was holding. He had explained very beautifully. So now he is going to tell the narrator about the ghosts at night. I am not easily frightened by these ghosts, these things, sir, he said. He is not easily frightened by ghosts. I am a brave fellow, he said. But one horrible ghost of a woman which appears off and on, often means irregularly, but one horrible ghost of a woman which appears off and on at midnight during the full moon. It is an ugly creature with matted hair, means Ishwaran is giving the description of the appearance of the ghost. He says that the ghost is horrible. There was the ghost of a woman. The woman had matted hair, means the ghost had matted hair, and a shriveled face, shriveled face, like a skeleton holding a fetus in its arms. Fetus means unborn baby. So Ishwaran is saying that it is an ugly creature. It is an ugly creature with matted hair. The ghost had matted hair, the lady, a shriveled face. That lady ghost had a shriveled face, contracted face, like a skeleton holding a fetus in its arms. She was appearing like a skeleton holding a fetus in its arms. Next line. Mahendra shivered. Hearing this, Mahendra started trembling at the description and interrupted rather sharply. Then Mahendra interfered or stopped him. You are crazy, Ishwaran. There are no such things as ghosts or spirits. Mahendra said, Ishwaran, while Ishwaran was explaining about the ghost of the lady, he interrupted. He stopped in between Ishwaran's talking and said, Ishwaran was crazy, a mad person. There is nothing such about ghosts or spirits. It is all a figment part of your imagination, of Ishwaran's imagination, he said. Mahendra said, it was just nothing else than his imagination. Get your digestive systems examined, he said. Ishwaran, so he suggested Ishwaran to get the digestive system examined, and maybe your head as well. He also suggested Ishwaran should get his head examined because perhaps he has gone mad. You are talking nonsense. You are talking meaningless. Means Ishwaran was talking something which has no meaning. Which had no meaning. Next line. See please. He left the room and retired for the night, expecting Ishwaran to sulk for a couple of days. Sulk means to remain silent after anger. So Mahendra thought, as he suggested such things, that Ishwaran was a mad person, he would get angry and remain silent for a number of days. But the next morning Mahendra was surprised to find the cook as cheerful and talkative as ever. Mahendra was surprised to find Ishwaran talkative, cheerful as he was forever. From that day on, Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed with a certain unease. So, from that day, Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed with a certain unease. Mahendra was brave, of course, but he felt unease, uncomfortable. Why? Because there was a little fear in his mind about the ghosts, as Ishwaran had told. Every night he peered into the darkness outside through the window next to his bed. Every night he exposed his head, stretched his head out into the darkness to see. Every night he peered into the darkness, he stretched his head out, he peered his head out into the darkness outside through the window, which was not just next to his bed. Why he stretched his head out to see? Trying to. So, students, please see the line I am showing you with the cursor. Trying to make sure that there was no movement of dark shapes in the vicinity area. Vicinity means area. He wanted to get sure that there was no movement of any ghosts, dark shapes in the area. But he could only see a sea of darkness. There was extreme darkness only he could see, with the twinkling lights of the factory miles away. Only there were twinkling lights of the factory miles away, otherwise the place was extremely dark. Sea of darkness he could see. Next line, please see the top. From the top of the line that you see on the screen. He had always liked to admire the milk white landscape on full moon nights. Milk white landscapes means the area, the landscape that was appearing complete white such night. He had always liked to admire, to praise full moon nights, which was completely appearing lighted. The landscape was appearing lighted. But after hearing Ishwaran's story of the female ghost, he avoided looking out of his window altogether when the moon was full. But after he heard about the ghost, he didn't want to look out of his window. Why? Because of the fear of ghost. Even when the moon was full, even in the full moon, he didn't want to or dare to look out. One night, Mahendra was woken up from his sleep by a low moan. Moan, M-O-N, moan means crying with pain. So Mahendra was woken up from his sleep, got up from his sleep because of some low, painful cry close to his window, which was coming just from near his window, close to his window. At first, he put it down to a cat prowling, making some sound. Cat sound. Prowling means the sound of the cat. At first, he put it down to a cat prowling around for mice or rats. He took it that perhaps it was the sound of the cat searching the mice. But the sound was too guttural. Guttural, the sound that is made with the throat, help of throat. Such sound is called guttural. But the sound was too guttural for a cat. He marked it was not the sound of the cat. He resisted, protested. The curiosity, the zeal, wish to know the next, to know something more. He protested that wish. He protested his zeal to look out lest he should behold a sight which would stop his heart. So he protested his wish. He tried to control his wish. What wish? His curiosity to look out. He tried to control his wish to look out. He did not want to look out. Otherwise, he should behold, he should see such a sight, which would stop his heart, he thought. If he did not control his wish, he looked out, he would see such a sight which would stop his heart. But the wailing became louder and less feline. Feline means cat-like. The sound of a cat. Feline means cat-like, means here the sound of a cat. So, the wailing, the cry, painful cry, became louder and less feline. He could not resist the temptation anymore. He could not control his desire to see temptation, greediness, attraction. He could not control anymore. Lowering himself to the level of the window sill, he came just up to the level of window sill. He looked out at the white sheet of moonlight outside. He looked outside, which was appearing white. There, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. He saw, not very far, there, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form. Something appearing cloud, just like cloudy form, holding a bundle. Mahendra broke. Please see the line there, the cursor shows it. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat. He started sweating, perspiring. The sweat came out from his body out of fear and fell back on the pillow. He fell back on the pillow, panting, taking quick breath, panting. As he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience, he began to reason with himself. So, after some time, he recovered from such condition, fear, from the ghastly experience. That was the fear which he had experienced. Then he began to reason with himself. He tried to control himself and finally concluded that it must have been some sort of auto-suggestion, some trick that his subconscious had played on him. He thought that it must have been some sort of auto-suggestion. It would be coming automatically to his mind, he thought. Some trick that his subconscious had played on him. He thought it must be some subconscious phenomenon that he is facing. Some kind of unconscious, subconscious, not unconscious, subconscious. Things, subconscious feeling that was coming to him. He felt so. Please see the top line. By the time he had got up in the morning, had a bath and come out to have his breakfast. He took bath and came out to have his breakfast. The horror of the previous night had faded from his memory. By the time he came to take the breakfast, the fear, the terrific scene of the previous night had disappeared, vanished from his memory. Ishwaran greeted him, welcomed him at the door. Ishwaran welcomed him at the door with his lunch packet and his bag. As usual, Ishwaran welcomed him. Just as Mahendra was stepping out, Ishwaran grinned and said, grinned means smiled, showing the teeth, as if making joke that way. So just as Mahendra was stepping out, Ishwaran grinned and said, Sir, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with a fetus in its arms? He said to Mahendra. Whether he remembers some day or the other day, Ishwaran was telling him about the female ghost, that ghost with a fetus in its arms. And when Ishwaran told this about the female ghost, Mahendra was so angry with him for imagining things. Ishwaran asked Mahendra whether he had remembered or not. What he had remembered? Ishwaran was explaining about the female ghost that was appearing with a fetus in its arms. Whether Mahendra had remembered or not. Well, you saw her yourself last night. Ishwaran said, you had seen that ghost last night yourself. I came running, hearing the sound of moaning, the painful cry. I came running means Ishwaran came running, hearing the sound of moaning that was coming from your room. That moaning was coming from Mahendra's room. Ishwaran said so. A chill went down Mahendra's spine, a set of bones at the back. Spine means as if the backbone and other bones at the back of Mahendra got cold. He did not wait for Ishwaran to complete his sentence. He didn't wait. He understood everything. He hurried away to his office. He quickly moved away to his office and handed in his papers, resolving to leave the haunted place. Haunted means visited by spirit, ghost, all these. So he wanted to leave that place which had been haunted by spirits, ghosts, the very next day. He gave a paper to Ishwaran and speedily went away to his office, directing him to leave the place which was haunted. So children, this is the end of the story. We will discuss the question answers in the next class. Today I have already provided you the question answers of the previous chapter. You will note them down. Thank you, children.